This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Today's topic, short business topic, to go with our earlier business news stories topic, is priorities versus quicksand, a daily challenge. So here's the concept: is every day each of us have certain priorities that fit into hopefully larger priorities that we have. Almost all of us, some way or another. I'm a list maker. Here's the things I got to get done today. There's a brilliant set of thoughts on list making and planning from a guy named Jason Selk, who's a sports psychologist, but also a brilliant author. He authored a book called Organize Tomorrow Today, and I actually love it. It basically says, look, if you put anything more than 3 big priorities on your list, you're probably in trouble. And then on top of that, you ought to carve out the one that's the biggest priority. So let's start with the concept that we're able to prioritize somehow or another. My list is, unfortunately, it's never that short, because there's certain things today that are business parts of the list, like I've got to complete these episodes, I've got to talk to this person, I've got this meeting. Plus there's the physical and mental parts of that list. I've got to do this much exercise or drink this much water, whatever it might be. It's never going to be that simple, but certainly the more we keep it down to a relatively few number of items, the healthier that we are. So that's the concept of starting the day with priorities and what they're going to be. And in our best life, when living our best life, when moving towards self-actualization, those priorities fit into clearly our big life priorities, and whatever those are for each person, whether they're the relationships, the work with one's children, the work with one's physical mental health, the works with their investment in business, their pursuit of their business goals. Whatever those big goals are, you're hoping that your day-to-day priorities fit into those. And then you get to this concept of you set those priorities, and one of my favorite speakers on priorities would often say, I start the day with a perfect set of clarity of what I want to do, and that by midway through the day, I've lost it. It's gone sideways for a million different reasons. And this concept of how do you find ways to guard against this, to make sure you take care of those big priorities without the day getting away from you. One of the phrases I hear often is, the day was hijacked. This client needed this. That business person needed that. It could be anything. It could be the sink overfilled, whatever it might be, that you get to the spot where, for whatever reason, the day's been hijacked for different reasons. And so the constant goal is to guard against that, and of course, give yourself grace when it happens. There's days when it's going to happen, and you sort of got to forgive yourself and move on to the next day. But one of the concepts that I come back to is there are 2 concepts. One is this concept that Jason Selk talks about, which is organized. What are your top 2 or 3 priorities? And the second thing is knowing yourself. Like, I know myself, if I'm going to write my business newsletter, if I don't do it early in the morning before I'm distracted by a lot of other things, it's likely not going to happen. Now, a lot of my podcasts are scheduled during the day, and I'm so fortunate to have magnificent production teammates that if I have to miss one, often they could fill in. But at the end of the day, setting the clear priorities, here's what has to be done today, helps you avoid this quicksand. And then knowing yourself, knowing what those top priorities are, and knowing the time of day you're most likely to accomplish those. And there's different ways that people sort of do this and dig into it, but trying to stay on focus on priorities, away from the quicksand that pulls you out of them. And then with those priorities, you cannot set 30 of them and expect to get them done or be satisfied. That's just ticking off a list. That usually might be somewhat satisfying, but doesn't really necessarily get you towards your life goals. So making sure priorities line up with life goals, making sure your priorities are relatively concise, a few, and then understanding yourself and when you best get your best priorities done. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Always feel free to text me at 773-766-5322 with any ideas or thoughts. We always love to hear them. Thank you so much.